It's been exactly 10 years since Dark Souls was released. In that time, Dark Souls has left an undeniable mark on millions of people around the world. But explaining exactly why From Software's games have had such an impact on their players, and on the gaming landscape as a whole, would make for a lengthy discussion. However, if there's any one reason why this game is just as captivating as it was when it released 10 years ago, I'd argue it's because Dark Souls believes in you. Dark Souls, as a game, wants you to succeed, and it consistently shows you that as melancholy and daunting as your quest is, you are not alone in your journey and you are more capable than you realize. That's what I'm going to focus on in this video, so come with me as we celebrate this masterpiece's 10th birthday and examine what makes Dark Souls a truly special, powerful, and enduring piece of art. As isolating an experience as playing Dark Souls is, there are many subtle ways that the game encourages you to press on through that isolation. Because the truth is, even if you play the game completely blind or in isolation yourself, no one beats Dark Souls alone. There are the more obvious multiplayer mechanics, such as summoning a friend or NPC to help you battle through a tough area or conquer a difficult boss, but the summoning system pretty much speaks for itself. Instead, I want to draw attention to some of these smaller multiplayer mechanics, starting with the message system. Dark Souls' message system is a fairly crude one, allowing players to string a short phrase together from a list of pre-selected words and phrases, and place it on the ground at the location of their choosing. This message will then appear at the same spot in other players' worlds, allowing them to read it and rate it if they choose. Ranging from legitimately helpful advice and playful attempts at comedy, these notes, at the very least, serve as a node of connection between the player and the human being that left the message. If your message is rated positively, you'll even receive an extra healing item temporarily, providing solid reason to engage with this system. In my experience playing Dark Souls, it's common for a boss room to be littered with messages saying, "I did it," which serves as proof that the player's victory over this boss is also attainable. And as frequent as it is to find a message at the edge of a cliff that reads, "Try jumping," these types of low-effort messages provide a brief moment of levity, albeit a very played-out one. For a system whose inputs are extremely limited, the outputs that Dark Souls' message system generates are surprisingly robust. These glowing orange scribbles aren't the only interactive elements you'll find on the ground, though. The bloodstain mechanic offers a ghostly glimpse of other real-life players in the moments leading up to their deaths. While you can't see the enemies that killed them, you can see where and how they died based on their own actions, which not only provides useful information to the player, but it also reinforces the idea that other people are out there who are struggling too. And fortunately, you might be able to learn from their mistakes. In that way, a strange sense of community is evoked from examining these bloodstains. Even a mechanic as simple as seeing the phantoms of other players roaming the world or resting at bonfires silently demonstrates to the player that they are not as alone as they might think. Given that the environments and atmosphere of Dark Souls are extremely oppressive, it's little moments like these that shine a light, however small, through that darkness. These mechanics can get even more obscure though. When you kindle a bonfire, players in completely separate worlds can receive an extra charge of their Estus flask, which turns a simple act of increasing your own odds of survival, something you're incentivized to do, into an unintentional act of charity. Again, the importance of community, even if that community isn't immediately tangible as far as the game itself is concerned, isn't acknowledged enough when discussing the Dark Souls experience. As far back as Demon Souls, From Software developed these games with the internet in mind. Given the inscrutable nature of the lore of their fictional worlds, they didn't expect one person to be able to decipher their game's stories. Rather, the very unraveling and unpacking of the story of Dark Souls requires collaboration, even if that collaboration takes place outside of the actual game. Dark Souls incentivizes you to engage with other people, to compare notes, share theories, or at least look up some of Vati's lore videos on YouTube. Furthermore, the notion of rugged individualism is proven false within the world of Dark Souls itself. Think about all the items you discover throughout the game. The vast majority of armor, weapons, equipment, and upgrade materials you discover throughout Dark Souls are looted off of corpses. you likely would not be able to succeed without all the warriors, adventurers, and explorers that came before you and failed in their quests. And of course, there are items you can purchase from friendly and not so friendly merchants throughout the game. Even when you ascend to the fabled city of Anor Londo, the only reason your character is able to progress across those nefariously narrow rafters is because a previous undead before you smashed open a window and unknowingly led you to that path. Your reliance on these characters, however indirect, is practically necessary to complete your journey, yet it doesn't diminish your own hard work along that journey. Taking this idea further, the inciting incident of the game, the incident that allows you to escape from your cell in the Undead Asylum and embark on your quest, only occurs because Oscar, another undead like you, chooses to selflessly aid you. And yes, while many of the game's characters are openly hostile or thoroughly distasteful to the player, there are friendly NPCs like Solaire, Laurentius, Andre, and Sigurd that remind you that this land is not entirely cruel. There are people and causes that are worth fighting for in this dying world. You just have to search hard enough for them. Not many things in Dark Souls are easily earned, but that makes them all the sweeter when they are earned. Which brings us to... The Soulsborne games have fascinated me for the better part of a decade now, but there's an inherent contradiction that sits at the center of that fascination like a severely tangled knot. And that contradiction is this. The game is constantly attempting to demoralize you, destabilize you, and overwhelm you, making the Dark Souls experience akin to that of a horror game, where the player feels vulnerable and underpowered at all times, terrified to step forward into the unknown. Yet the central design philosophy of the Soulsborne series is of player empowerment. It's all about providing the player with a sense of accomplishment. Despite the odds being against you, despite you being outmatched, unsure, and underprepared, you still manage to overcome the treacherous traps, merciless monstrosities, and daunting difficulty that the game throws at you. And that feeling of surmounting a seemingly insurmountable challenge is incredibly empowering, almost indescribably empowering to those who haven't played the game. The creator of Dark Souls, Hidetaka Miyazaki, spoke on the series' infamous difficulty in a 2016 interview, stating,
I have no intention to make the game more difficult than other titles on purpose. It's just something required to make this style of game. Ever since Demon's Souls, I've really been pursuing making games that give players a sense of accomplishment by overcoming tremendous odds. We've added new items and weapons over the course of the series, and having a certain level of difficulty adds value to those because they incentivize players to experiment more with character builds and weapon loadouts.
It can be frustrating to see Dark Souls be synonymous with the word difficulty, when its difficulty is just one aspect of what makes this game so special. It's an undeniably essential aspect, but other features such as the environmental storytelling, the horrifying yet beautiful enemy designs, and the depth and expressiveness of the combat are just several of many special qualities of this game. And that's about as much as I want to delve into the Dark Souls difficulty debate, so let's shift gears to the story. When you break down the story of Dark Souls to its most basic elements, not the lore or the plot of the game, but the story of the Dark Souls experience, Dark Souls is about a tiny, insignificant being growing more powerful and overcoming impossible odds to achieve victory. And that is true of both the player and the player character. It's this lack of divide between these two entities that make the player's victories that much more significant. Because it's not just a number that increases when the player levels up that allows them to succeed. It is their own skill, dedication, and growth that allows them to succeed, and that ultimately empowers them. The player's victories are much more the player's victories than the player character's victories, if that makes sense. One of my favorite examples of how Dark Souls empowers its players comes through two of its early game boss battles, the Taurus Demon and the Capra Demon. Both of these bosses will likely incur many player deaths on a first playthrough, yet towards the end of the game in Lost Izalith, these once terrifying, powerful behemoths are now just regular enemies that can be defeated in a few hits. The enemies themselves haven't changed in their power level, but you, the player, have. It's about as clear a sign of progress that can be demonstrated, and it highlights how integral player empowerment is to Dark Souls' design philosophy. That ability to directly impact the player is something unique to the interactive medium of video games, and I think its importance cannot be overstated. I can only speak from my own personal experiences, but as someone who has struggled with and continues to struggle with anxiety, Dark Souls is a reminder that it's worthwhile to battle through that anxiety. It's not going to be easy, and I'm not always going to win that battle right away, but with enough persistence, determination, and willingness to ask for help when I need it, I will be astounded at what I can accomplish. Effectively, Dark Souls is a reminder of how powerful and capable we truly are as people. As overwhelming, frightening, and depressing as Dark Souls can be, Dark Souls does not revel in your deaths. Rather, it revels in the very concept of life itself, proving that as difficult as life may be at times, it is always worth it to fight through the pain. Because even if you don't realize it yet, life has more to offer you, and you have more to offer life than you ever could have imagined. It's messages like this, ones that are inexorably baked into the gameplay itself, that highlight. If you hang around on the Dark Souls subreddit for long enough, or just search Dark Souls and depression on Google or YouTube, you can find hundreds of articles, posts, and videos about how Dark Souls and From Software's other games have helped people cope with issues like anxiety and mental illness. And given the premise of the story, it's not hard to see why so many parallels between the experience of Dark Souls and the experience of real-world depression can be drawn. The player character, like the majority of the characters you'll meet in Dark Souls, is undead, meaning they are resurrected upon death without any real limit to those resurrections. However, as undead die more and more and as their will to live wanes, they begin a process known as hollowing, where they gradually lose their sanity, identity, and purpose until only a soulless husk remains. The player character can die an infinite number of times in the game without ever going hollow. Not because they're special or because they're better than other undead within the Dark Souls universe, but because it's not the player character that can go hollow. It's the player. It's you. The only real way for your character to go hollow is if you give up, if you give in to defeat and despair, and if you quit playing the game. This is by no means an original take on Dark Souls' story, but if anything, I think how common this interpretation of hollowing is within the community makes it all the more relevant. Having to persevere through the hardships and adversity that the game throws at you feels not at all dissimilar from having to persevere through the hardships and adversity that life throws at you. That feeling of being stuck on a difficult boss in Dark Souls is often akin to bashing your head against a concrete wall. You might think, there's no way I can defeat this boss. It's too difficult, I just can't do it. You might get frustrated and put the game down, you might loudly proclaim to an empty room that the boss is unfair, and you might give up entirely for a time. But eventually, something strange happens. You win. You actually manage to break a concrete wall by bashing your head against it. It's a reminder of your own tenacity and capability as a person, and there's very few, if any, gaming experiences that can provoke the same level of emotions from its players. And I think that ability to resonate so deeply with its player base extends far beyond the individual. Can you name a game that's had more influence on the gaming industry over the last decade than Dark Souls has? Dark Souls spawned an entirely new genre of video games. All those memes and headlines about the Dark Souls of whatever was being talked about that week shows that everyone wanted to be Dark Souls, to have the same level of acclaim, reach, and importance that Dark Souls has. And for a series with a more niche, hardcore appeal than other AAA games, in a decade that was dominated by first-person shooters, that's honestly astounding. As mentioned previously, Dark Souls aims to isolate the player, at least on the surface level, which makes it all the more impressive that this game has brought so many people together. It's no exaggeration to say that Dark Souls has changed lives. And when it ultimately comes down to it, isn't that the point of art? A truly great work of fiction holds a mirror up to our own world and is capable of changing the way we view that world and the way we view ourselves as people. Dark Souls has given me, like it has given so many others, new perspectives on and new ways of thinking about difficult obstacles in my life. It's shown me how deep of an experience a video game can be in more than one sense of the word, and it's provided me with courage that I didn't know I had when I've needed it most. There have been times in my life that I've felt stuck or frustrated or hopeless. But as silly as it sounds, I've thought to myself, this is just like a Dark Souls boss. It seems impossible now, but with enough determination, willpower, and perseverance, I can make it through. And you know what? I haven't always made it through, at least when I wanted to. But in some cases, I have. And in whatever way, however small or large, Dark Souls helped me with that. I can't say that about many pieces of art. The impact that this series has had on so many people around the world is genuinely incalculable. I've always felt that for all of Dark Souls' obvious strengths, there's an invisible X factor, something that isn't quite capable of being pinned down or explained, that makes the game truly special. Maybe I've been able to articulate that X factor in this video, or maybe I haven't, but after a decade of this game being in our lives, the most important message that I'm left with is simple. Dark Souls believes in you, and you should too. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. This is obviously a topic that's really important to me, but one essential aspect of the Soulsborne games that I didn't explore as much as I could have in this video is community. I genuinely cannot name a better, kinder, and more welcoming fandom on the internet than the Soulsborne community, and I know that my experiences with these games are just one of many. If you're comfortable sharing how Dark Souls has impacted your life, I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If you haven't played any of the Soulsborne games before and you've made it to the end of this video, well, I hope you feel encouraged to pick one up now. And if you're struggling with your mental health or with mental illness, I've put some resources on screen and in the description that you can reach out to. Even if it might not feel like it right now, I promise you that you are not alone and that you are stronger than you think. Until I see you again, stay safe out there, friend, and don't you dare go hollow.